So welcome back to Gloves Up. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Cooperman, also known as Coop and the Soundboard God. And this video, I figured, since we didn't really have any technical breakdowns we could do, maybe I'll have a King Kenny breakdown coming your way in the coming days. I wanted to talk about my thoughts on the future of the influencer boxing scene, and particularly how Jake Paul is taking the lead in a big way. Now, you guys can feel free to disagree with me in the comment section below. Many people have made their voices heard in the comments. I'm loving it, whether it's negative, whether it's positive. It's all the same to me. It means that you guys are taking the time out of your day to engage with my content, and I truly do appreciate that. But let me know if you disagree with my takes, of course, down there. I do believe that what we've seen from this, scene is that Jake Paul is leading the dance in a huge way. Now, for new viewers of the channel, I've said in past videos that I believe that KSI is essentially playing catch up to Jake. Now, he's doing a good job opening up Misfits Boxing, which is to this date the most credited influencer boxing league we have out there on the market. But with Jake making big moves, signing with the PFL, and fighting guys that are at a different level than just the influencer guys, it makes you kind of wonder where we're going to see the scene in, let's just say, let's put a time frame out there, 3 years time. I know that there are currently weight classes and belts within the sport. For instance, King Kenny, who again I want to do a breakdown on at some point, holds the cruiserweight, I believe it's the ICB belt, and he defended it his last time out with a fantastic performance that we're probably going to cover on the show. I wonder if down the road we would see some of the more accredited, like the WBO, WBC, the IBO, right? Some of those long-standing, right? Those organizations that dabble in professional boxing and professional Muay Thai come and sanction some of these events. That would be a great step forward for the legitimacy of the sport in a lot of people's eyes, and for the athletes having that extra incentive of being ranked higher, having mandatory challenges for the belts. I mean, sure, there's a lot of politics currently wrapped around the world of professional boxing, and that's why, you'll see a lot of MMA fans, their main critique and their main reasoning for why MMA is so much better or on a different level than boxing in terms of popularity is because of those politics, where we can't see those super fights, or if we do see those super fights, it takes years to make. Like Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia has been in the works for so much time now, and I think it just got released to the press that they're coming to some sort of verbal agreement for April. That's definitely something that you'd have to sidestep. But what I'm saying is, if even one of these organizations, let's just say the WBC or the WBO, we don't want to spread the influencer boxing scene too thin, but let's just say at least one organization takes interest. So I'll just use the WBC as an example. If they take interest and they set up rules, regulations, as I said before, mandatory challenges, belts, all that different type of stuff, that would add a really, really nice coat of shine to, albeit a still growing but fun to watch industry full of passionate athletes that also bring with them a following. The truth is, as influencer boxing gets a lot more established and famous and gets put more and more into the mainstream like it currently is, the production will get more professional because they've partnered up with DAZN. They have some of the best production quality in all of combat sports. There's going to be more opportunities for sponsors. I see sponsors now all over the canvas. I mean, just take one look, right, from the last Misfits event, or even 2 Misfits events ago. You could see all of those different real and accredited brands lining the canvas. There's undoubtedly more of that to come. And you want to talk about outside of Misfits, right? There's iDubbbz promotion, Creator Clash. I mean, that's fantastic. There's definitely grifters in the scene, no doubt about that. There are bad faith actors, but I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. In all of amateur fighting, there are promotions that will pop up and evaporate after a couple months. There's always gonna be bad actors, so that's just something that you have to deal with when you have a new industry in the combat sports world. You see it all the time. Just take a look at your local MMA promotions, and you'll see 2 or 3 of them that have a nightclub mixed in while the fighters are fighting in the background. I've seen that before. It's wild. So this is par for the course. In terms of athletes, I mean, I think what they tried to do with Dillon Danis, and we're going to have a video coming out about that soon that reveals a lot of information that I'm sure the public, and especially I, didn't know, that had showed why I was so wrong about him. But I think signing more athletes like Dillon Danis that are in the MMA world world, that are in the professional boxing world even, would be a fantastic idea. Not only to see where the athletes at the influencer level lie, but also to get, again, a little bit more professionalism. I mean, a lot of these athletes are taking it seriously. King Kenny, I'm going to talk about his name for the third time in this video. You watch a lot of his fights, and you can't really, if you didn't know, if you weren't well versed, right, in combat sports, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference from a pro and an amateur fight. I mean, he looks very tight, very technical. So that's also going to grow on the athlete side of things. But the final and perhaps most pressing question that we have to ask today is, how are Jake Paul and KSI going to essentially come together at some point to complete this scene? And I do believe that's where this crash course is headed. For as much hate as these guys have towards each other, they are the two pillars of this kind of developing scene. And so at some point, it would only make sense for them to join forces. Now, it doesn't have to be in a buddy-buddy way. You know, it should just be that with what Jake is doing right now, partnering up with Showtime, right, partnering up with the PFL, and what KSI is doing, partnering up with DAZN and making his own promotion in Misfits Boxing, we should see crossovers galore. There is so much money to be made there. And for anyone that's going to sit here and say, oh, well, you know, the MMA guys aren't going to go over to Misfits and fight more influencers. They're only going to fight guys on Jake's level. What happened to Hasim Rahman Jr. fighting Greg Hardy? That's a crossover between two guys, one's in MMA, one's in boxing, and that took place on an influencer card. So to sit here and say that we were where we were at the beginning of all of this, where a lot of professional guys were looking down on these influencer cards, that's not the case anymore. And the truth is, there is far too much room for expansion, for money to be made, and for attention to be put on these athletes through these different promotions. I think another big part of the influencer, and I'm going to raise this out to combat sports, now the influencer combat sports scene, is Jake Paul's jump into MMA. I think that's going to lead to a lot more bountiful fruit for a lot of guys that are currently in the boxing scene that might want to jump, cross over into different disciplines. We're seeing guys like Francis Ngannou do it now. Tyson Fury are talking about it. So it's only a matter of time until the influencers follow in suit. But that's my thoughts on where I think the influencer combat sports scene will end up. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I, of course, have been your host, Jacob Koopman, the Soundboard God. This has been Gloves Up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.